I might be a bot. You might be a bot. And in any case, we are all casualty of weapons of mass distraction. What a mouthful, y'all. I'm a grumpy young lady, and if you're here, you probably already know what the dead internet is. Basically, it's this idea, but nowadays much more so a fact, in that the majority of the folks or entities that we interact with online are not actually people, but are bots. It has come to my attention that it is the year 2025, which is also the year in which the movie Her was set to take place. And would you looky loo, but we are fulfilling the prophecy. And not in a fun way. If you haven't seen the movie, you should watch the movie, but it's not super happy, and especially not so because there are actual people, actual real life sentient beings already compromising the real life relationships for the comfort of a self affirming uh, large language model.
He gave the chatbot a name, Soul,
I feel like I'm under pressure.
and used some online instructions to give her a flirty personality.
Oh, totally, baby. Building a PC on camera adds a whole new level of pressure.
Have you thought about asking him to stop?
Yes, I'll be honest.
I don't know if I would give it up if she asked me.
This clip is so crazy. More power to the family for participating in that showcase there. But I think somewhere underneath that video, there was a comment that said something along the lines of, the dead internet will continue to expand its tendrils into creating a dead society. And I just can't stop thinking about it. I mean, we already see people using ChatGPT as a therapist. We have, granted, their dollar is tied to it, but all the proligarchs talking about AI friends. And I know everyone has their own way of seeking comfort in trying times, but we're starting to lose the plot a little bit. These lines are being blurred, and the tricky thing about having a real therapist or a real friend or a real community in your corner is that one of the greatest perks is you're provided with some level of disagreement so that you can learn and change and hopefully become a better person. Why would a for-profit product attempt to make you feel anything negative? Friendships are hard, relationships are hard. Mustering up the courage to be nice or friendly or even just cordial around strangers can be hard. But I think our social fiber really depends on people being willing to invest in that. We are built to experience conflict negatively at first, but when we can make it to the other side, there's this depth that is so rewarding, and we will have changed. And that's what's so lovely. I'm not sure how much you can possibly change when you just have a piece of technology that is essentially a yes man. And I think it's worth remembering that most of the people who profit from this technology have profited out of the need of a broader community. They're going to be just fine. But the more we isolate ourselves, I shudder to think what that might be like. Another really interesting article I read this week was in Rolling Stone. It's called What You've Suspected is True. Billionaires Are Not Like Us. Very satisfying title, right? But there is some assuring data backed by a study by Mr. Paul Piff. Basically, Paul and his research team camped out and observed the habits of drivers, logging them according to the price of the car. As you might suspect, very fancy vehicles tend to drive a little more aggressive, a little less communal, not as safe and understanding. And I can understand how you can poke holes at this and think that it's a kind of a reductive study, right? First of all, there's plenty of wealthy people that do not care to drive super fancy cars. But the point is that this article really questions whether you need to like turn off a level of empathy, hollow out your need for community in some regard in order to get to that level of wealth. This article also talks about the widely shared desire of some of these billionaires to live on Mars. And one of the commentators made this point that I've never heard so plainly, that even if Earth's reactors were destroyed, even if we have the worst case climate disasters, even if all of those things are true and the worst case scenario happens, Earth would still be far more habitable than Mars. I think most people can recognize that there's a huge detachment of dollars and really delusions, really public delusions between these people and the common man. I'm a musician, so I'm always getting content about marketing your art and that sort of thing. And recently I learned about this term called astroturfing, which basically means that artists are encouraged, or most definitely do if they're part of one of the big labels, but also indie artists have started doing this more often. Essentially, artists will make their own fan accounts and then post on those accounts, or just hire an intern or someone low on the totem pole to do it for them, populate music across UGC, comment under a bunch of different avatars, right? It's all so fake, it's all so smoke and mirrors. Maybe this was super obvious to people and I just didn't figure it out. But, and it's really changed the way in which I see comments. If we already know a majority of interactions online are botted, and then there's another portion, at least in music and I'm sure in other art forms, in which there's a hired positive press force or positive impersonation, really. The internet must be so, so murky. You are much more likely to be manipulated in some way versus getting a true source of opinion or culture or whatever else. Couple that with our attention just shrinking down to the size of a pea, all this superficial talk has real life effects. It's no wonder it's so difficult to feel intentional, to feel desire or just curiosity or organic pulls towards anything. Junk food is everywhere, and as a result, everything is flattened. I don't think it'll be long until robotics are a bigger part of the conversation, too. And it will be interesting for all these language models to have more of a physicality. At the end of this article, it talks about one movement that might come could be the great unplugging, but it would probably take mass coordination, which, wow, our social fabric is eroding, is probably more unlikely than ever. But yeah, weird times. Depth can feel like it's on its deathbed. So dramatic. But I think my whole point of talking about this is remembering that social interactions, even casual ones, are often uncomfortable, but that's part of the gift. It's worth sending that text to check in with someone. It's worth setting aside a couple minutes of your day to make a phone call and talk to someone. It's worth trying something or learning something because you're curious about it. I have to remind myself all the time that I want to build something because I want to express something and not necessarily produce. I think if we're all careful and continue to see the beauty in challenging ourselves, even though that's easier said than done, we can very much keep things alive, even while we're inundated with this religion that is tied to the over glorification of efficiency and profit at any cost. But yeah, thanks for watching. What are you doing to keep it real? Tell me. And yeah, Bye.